Colors don't exist independently. How we see them depends on what is around them. So if we swap the background around our subject, it is a great probability that we will have to remove the previous color cast. Also, some surfaces tend to reflect the colors that surrounds them, especially it is visible in the coats of white and black horses. Especially after background swap or converting to black or white background, we will need to get rid of the colors that have no right to be there anymore. The easiest method for black and white horses is to use a hue and saturation adjustment layer. So in the adjustment panel, click the hue and saturation icon and it makes a new layer, which is an adjustment layer. There is nothing on it. It only holds the information of our adjustments that we make on hue and saturation. The actual image layer stays intact, so we can alter our adjustment or change it without losing the quality. Click on the layer icon. It shows the hue and saturation panel, lower the saturation to minimum, so we are getting now a black and white image. Each adjustment layer comes with its own mask. By default, it's set to white, which means that it shows everything that we adjusted on this adjustment layer. But if we invert this mask and make it black, it means that we are hiding everything. So now we are back to our initial image, but our black and white adjustments still exist on the hue and saturation layer. It's just not visible because it's masked out. But we can use a very soft brush with a very slow flow. Here I'm using 1% flow and paint white on this black mask to reveal our adjustments. So we are revealing the desaturation that we performed on adjustment layer. Paint it very gently, very softly, because we don't want patches. We want everything blending in nicely, and also we don't want our image to become black and white. So we need to leave a lot of color, but only paint the areas that have this cast which was left from the previous background. If we notice that we overdid it and the image became too black and whitey, we can always switch the brush color to black and mask it back, or we can lower the layer opacity. So this is how our original image looked. This is how it looked after desaturating it to black and white. And this is how it looks after our corrections. Our next example will be with a brown horse, and this method you will be using for any other color than black and white. The color of grass, the green color of grass where the horse stood, is reflected in his coat, so the lower part of his body, his belly and his legs look a bit too greenish. Click on plus icon to create a new layer. This gives us a new empty layer on top of everything. Let's call it color cast removal. Now from the layer blending mode menu, choose color. Pick a soft brush with a very low flow, then pick the color from the horse's body, from a place without the green cast. To pick the color, click with the brush tool, whilst having the Option key or Alt key in Windows computers pressed down. And paint gently over the places that are too green. As you can see, when the layer is set to color mode, the only thing that changes when you paint is actually color. The texture and the value stay untouched. The value is the level of darkness. You need a really low flow here. Now let's compare before and after, and we have gotten rid of an ugly color cast. And now a slightly different story, where instead of removing color cast entirely, we need to change it for another color. So after swapping the background, the horse seems definitely too green, because obviously he has a color cast from reflecting the grass. It's especially visible on the lower parts, because this is where the color of the grass is reflecting the most. Now our setup is pinkish, so we expect that this pink color would reflect on his coat, not the green one, because it's absent here. So it would be something like this. Since we swapped the background, we already have the horse and the background on separate layers. Now we are making a brand new layer on top of everything and setting its blending mode to color. But that's not all. We also need to make this new layer into a clipping mask. So now I will take the opportunity to explain you more about the clipping mask, how it works and why it is so useful. Imagine that we have a black background, white subject, I paint something on the new layer here, and now we added a new layer, which later we convert to a clipping mask. But before we do it, let's paint something on it. Okay, so I've painted some red shape. Now convert this red layer to a clipping mask. To do so, you can use a command from the panel. You have also a shortcut, keyboard shortcut just written there if you want to memorize it. When the layer is converted to a clipping mask, when it becomes a clipping mask, the icon of this layer shows it, displays like a little arrow near the layer icon. It means that this layer is actually a clipping mask. And no matter what exists on this layer, the only visible part is that part that is determined by the shape of transparency of the layer below. So if you have a selected horse on this layer below, whatever you paint on top of it, on the clipping mask, you will see it only within the shape of the horse from the layer below. This is very useful when you make color corrections, which you want to make only to the subject without affecting the background. It might sound complicated. I remember when I first learned about clipping masks, it was a bit of a mystery to me. But once you grab a hold of it, you will really love them. Back to our beautiful Perlino. Now we've converted the new layer. Remember that the blending mode of this layer is set to color. Anyway, we've just converted it to a clipping mask. Now we are picking a pink color from the background and painting gently, again with a very, very low flow. I am using 1% here, painting very gently on the areas mostly affected by the green cast. Just take it slowly. Not overdo it, because we don't want a pink horse, we just want a pink cast in some specific places. And as you can see, if we paint on the clipping mask layer, we can do it quite freely, but we won't be getting pink patches around the horse, because our brush strokes only are visible within the outline of the clipping mask, which actually is the shape of the horse from the layer below. And here it is, the final result, after all the retouch and all the beauty edit, including adding some new mane.